In an unsurprising development, Kamala Harris again has flip-flopped on the issue of Medicare for All. I feel like I'm saying this like a million times. She's flip-flopped on it so many times. She's flip-flopped on the issue of specifically of whether to ban private insurance and all that stuff. And I mean, she's just gone all over the place when it comes to this this issue, and I just can't stand it. It's getting really cringeworthy at this point because she can't maintain any talking points, and she just jumps all over the place. She, doesn't really seem to honestly care that she, if she's talking to a certain group of people or a certain audience or something, she doesn't seem to care that, she's sounding completely different than she did the last time she spoke to some sort of, constituency, whatever it is, whether it's a specific state or whether it's donors or a fundraiser or whatever. But anyway, so splinternews.com, which is a pretty decent publication, they covered how she basically, changed her mind again on Medicare for All. And the title of this article from Splinter News is Kamala Harris shows us how the system works. And the article is by Jack Mirkinson. And the body of the article starts off by saying, Kamala Harris was in the Hamptons this past weekend raising money from rich people. There, she told people that she was not cool with Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All plan. Technically, according to Bloomberg, what Harris said was, I have not been comfortable with Bernie's plan. She also stressed that her own healthcare plan would leave room for private insurance. Yeah, we know. We're aware of that. And then she says, and then the article says, this is all routine enough. People can have their disagreements all they want about healthcare, but there's one odd thing about Harris's sudden vocal discomfort around the Sanders plan. She signed on to it in the Senate just a couple of months ago. Harris was one of a number of co-sponsors of the Medicare for All Act of 2019 in April, well into her presidential run. And lest you think that Harris was just sort of standing in the back and didn't want to take any credit, CNN's Andrew Kaczynski pointed out that her office issued a press release placing her at the center of the whole thing. The release literally says Harris colleagues introduce Medicare for All. It's actually the second time Harris has backed Sanders on the issue. She also signed on to the 2017 version of the bill, too. The full transcript of Harris's remarks shows her essentially saying that she signed on to a bunch of different things in the Senate and she supports them all. Of course she does. But also, she doesn't support them all. And people aren't into the Sanders plan, and she decided that she doesn't actually like it. Wow. The relevant bit somewhat edited down by me. So this is quoting her and what she said here. She says, I think almost every member of the United States Senate who's running for president and many others have signed on to a variety of plans in the Senate, and all of them are good ideas, which is why I support them. But as you may have noticed over the course of many months, I have not been comfortable with Bernie's plan. And I'll tell you why. And again, it comes back to listening. I've been listening to people, yeah, I'm sure you have, your donors. And people don't want to your point, I don't know who she's referring to, your point. They don't want to not have a private option. I went back to my team and said we need a better plan. And then the article, the author, Jack Mirkinson, continues on with the last paragraph here. He says, what a great insight into how the process works. If you're a senator, you get to co-sponsor lots of legislation, and you even get to issue press releases about how good it is and what a crucial role you played in its development. And then just a few months later, you can say, actually, never mind. If I was a more cynical person, I'd say Harris never believed in the plan in the first place, but I would never accuse a politician of acting disingenuously. I mean, that's so true. Kamala Harris is somebody that you can't expect her to be truly consistent, truly authentic, truly just, saying as she does and doing as she says. She doesn't walk the walk. She doesn't talk the talk. Everything that she puts out there, you have to take it with the finest grain of salt. You cannot rely on her to stick to anything. Like her ideas and the statements that mainly the statements that she puts out and promises that she makes. It's like throwing Jello against a wall. It's not going to stick. It's going to keep rolling off that wall. It's going to keep, it's going to keep, it's just going to keep, letting you down. It's not going to be something that you can truly rely upon, because at the end of the day, she is in it for herself. She is in it for the title of, I'm president. I'm the first female president. I'm the first woman of color president. I'm the first Jamaican descent president. However you want to put it. This is what she wants to do. This is how she sees herself. She doesn't want to go in there and change the system, because she knows that if she talks to her donors, she talks to, her advisors, or obviously she's got advisors that used to work for Hillary Clinton. I mean, Elizabeth Warren has the same exact thing, so it's not that big of a, mystery that these people want to get advice from the same people that they spearheaded the campaign that lost to Donald Trump. So these people are working for a campaign that was a total failure and lost to a reality TV show host, and they keep pushing for the same exact things that Hillary Clinton was, or at least the same strategies that Hillary Clinton was, and they think that's totally okay. It's like, yeah, that's fine. Who cares? You got to do what you got to do. You got to, you got to push for things that the specific people that are working for the Democratic Party apparatus. So because these are all people they're in the same circles, they're all running in the same circles as each other. They're all doing, they're part of the same cocktail parties. They're going to the same, events as each other, going to the same not hearings, but I mean like, events and stuff, and like getting together and, talking about whatever's going on in Washington, D.C. and, who's selling out to the next donor, to the latest donor, and to the latest, lobbyist or whatever and stuff, all that shit. So they are roaming in the same circles, and they know this, and they know they can't get out of that, to use a phrase from Meet the Parents, which is a great movie with Robert De Niro and Ben Stiller. You can't get out of that circle of trust. That circle of trust is very, very important for these establishment types. They can't get out of that, because if they get out of that, you're not going to get back in. Once you're out, you're out. And that's what Robert De Niro said in that famous, what I consider at least famous scene, where he reminded Greg, which is Ben Stiller in Meet the Parents. He reminded him, once you're out of that circle, you're out, and there's no way of getting back in. Now, I don't necessarily know if that's exactly the case when it comes to politics, but it seems like if you are going out there and being, let's say, anti whatever, let's say you're in favor of like Bernie, like you're in favor of Medicare-For-All, and you're in favor of Green New Deal and raising the minimum wage, stuff like ending the wars and stuff, the stuff that the establishment hates. Like, would it be possible that you could get back into that little circle if you start saying different things? It depends. I don't think Bernie Sanders will ever get into that circle if he, God, I know he's not going to, but I'm saying, like, if, like, say anybody like Bernie Sanders, was saying the things that he's saying and then wanted to get back into that circle, that establishment circle of trust, I don't know. It's possible they would be able to get back in, that particular person, whether it's Bernie or whoever. Again, I don't think Bernie would do that, but I'm saying just as as an example. But at the same time, they would definitely be worried. They'd be looking at you from like the corner of their eye, worrying like, oh shit, is this person going to switch when we least expect it? And I mean, to their credit, can you blame them for being worried about that? I don't know. I mean, my feeling is that these people are always keeping a close eye on what these politicians say, And just like we are, people on social media, I know myself, progressives out there, we're always talking about how, look at what this, whatever, this, anchor on MSNBC said, or this CNN person said, or this politician said, or whoever said, Bernie said this, or, Elizabeth Warren said that. So we're keeping track of this stuff. But I guarantee you, just as closely, these donors, these establishment types, the lobbyists, all these people are looking closely at these people, at these politicians, and seeing what they say, and making sure that they're maintaining the status quo, or whatever, maintaining whatever kind of, ideas and policies that they want, and they're making sure that they don't get off track. They got to stay on that. They got to stay on that lane. They can't get off that lane. They got to stay on the lane that they, are expected to be in, and it's guaranteed that. That's something that the lobbyists are looking out for. Like I said, just like we're looking out for our politicians, on people on mainstream media, hosts and whatnot. We're keeping a close eye on them too. So it's just a matter of knowing that people are going to continue doing what they say they're going to do, and sticking to it. And we expect that, and then also the donors and lobbyists expect that. We can't go out there and think, we can't think like too naively and be like, oh no, they aren't, watching them just like we're watching them as well. Everybody is able to, with technology these days, TV, cell phones and stuff, everybody's keeping track of everything. Everybody's watching everything. Everybody's making sure nobody, gets off that, gets off that thing, off that kind of, that whole kind of that specific pedestal, right? Off that pedestal of, making sure they're, you're in the establishment, you're on the establishment pedestal, you don't want to get knocked off that establishment pedestal, So I'm throwing out a bunch of analogies here, whether you're using circle of trust or pedestal, whatever. But, but also, so I wanted to mention, also in conjunction with the kind of, again, flip-flopping of Elizabeth Warren, the Elizabeth Warren camp has been going after Bernie Sanders a lot. They've been attacking, a lot of his progressive policies. Kamala's not going after Bernie Sanders as much. This is the first time I've seen her even address specifically him. When she said she's not comfortable with his plan. But when it comes to, when it came to a specific part of Bernie Sanders' plan, there was an article written in the Washington Post, which is a publication that Bernie Sanders attacked. He called out Jeff Bezos, which is, he's the owner of Washington Post, Amazon, Washington Post, because he bought out the Washington Post, so he runs them, obviously. And he called out the Washington Post for, criticizing him a lot. And the media lost its fucking shit over that. But that's a separate story. But there was another article they wrote, another negative article here, where they talked about Bernie Sanders changing his Medicare-For-All plan, and the way that the Kamala Harris campaign framed it was like, oh, he's flip-flopping, or it's changing his mind or something. What they did is, if you really go into the details of the article, is all they did was that they made sure that so Bernie Sanders' campaign, they made sure that his Medicare-For-All plan ensures that the people that are in organized labor, so they're part of labor unions, that they're going to get as good, if not better, care than they are right now. Because right now, a lot of unions are receiving private insurance from their employers, and Bernie Sanders has always been like, the people that receive private insurance right now, I'm going to make sure they're going to receive just as, if not better, care under a Medicare-For-All plan. So I just wanted to read this kind of beginning part of the article here, which gets into the details, and I just wanted to explain to you exactly what the details of this change to Bernie Sanders' plan is. So it says Senator Bernie Sanders announced a key change to his Medicare-For-All insurance plan Wednesday, a movement to assuage fears on the part of organized labor whose support is being heatedly sought by all of the candidates for the Democratic presidential nomination. Labor representatives have expressed concerns to candidates publicly and to campaign staffs privately that a single-payer system could negatively affect their benefits, which in many cases offer better coverage than private plans. The change announced Wednesday would effectively give organized labor more negotiating power than other consumers would have under his plan by forcing employers to pay out any money they save to union members and other benefits. One of the primary concerns union members and leaders have raised about Sanders' Medicare-For-All plan is that they negotiated healthcare coverage under the current system, in some cases, ceding salary in exchange for those benefits. Under Sanders' new wrinkle, those unions could renegotiate their contracts under the supervision of the National Labor Relations Board. That's the NLRB. Quoting, who's this quoting? Oh, the plan. It says unions will still be able to negotiate for and provide wrap-around services and other coverage not duplicative of the benefits established under Medicare-For-All. The plan now says, a seeming acknowledgement of a role for private coverage by a campaign that has railed against others for not taking a hard enough stance against such plans. Okay, so this is not he doesn't even say it. He doesn't say, I mean, even the article is being ridiculous, and it's saying this is a seeming acknowledgement. He's not acknowledging that private coverage is going to exist in the plan. All it's saying is that the people can negotiate for and provide wraparound services and other coverage not duplicative of the benefits established under Medicare-For-All. So basically, this is another case of supplemental care. Now, supplemental care is not the same thing as private care. Now, supplemental care is covered under a private care system. It's not a public care system because it's supplemental, and it just addresses specific things. And this is basically saying that people can have a supplemental. They can have a supplemental kind of care, health care, coverage until their transition into Medicare-For-All. And this doesn't say anything about private care, allowing people to have private care. It's not saying that, people aren't going to be, not receiving care, or they're not going to get care, if they're in a union, nothing like that. No, that's the way the Kamala Harris campaign is framing it. And one or at least two of his, I know for sure is one of Kamala Harris's advisors or spokespeople, Ian Sams, he's a prick. He's been going after Bernie Sanders probably more than anybody, along with another woman. I forgot her name. Lily something. And so, I'm sorry, I forgot her name, but those two were going after Bernie Sanders, and being like, oh, so wow, now you support a private care system or something, Bernie, or something along those lines, and they're pretending as if it's super pithy and like a gotcha, oh, we gotcha, Bernie. No, that's bullshit. That's not the way it is at all. It's a supplemental plan, a supplemental kind of service until you get transitioned into Medicare-For-All, and honestly, in some cases where you're not eligible for Medicare-For-All. So if you are in a, you're part of a, let's say, initially, so when you're making that transition period, you have to get under some sort of supplemental insurance, and that's what Bernie supports. And or even just the supplemental plan during the specific transformation, because transition period, so that during that 4-year period, the private plans are, whatever Obamacare or whatever exists, it's going to exist within those 4 years that Medicare-For-All is being implemented, so is kind of being implemented, and but then when the transition period happens, some people are going to have to go under some sort of supplemental care, so then eventually they can get into the actual transition process themselves and then get Medicare-For-All. So that's all this really is. It's not the media or whoever, especially in this case, the idiots at the Washington Post, trying to make this into some sort of a gotcha, or Bernie is changing his plans or something. That's not happening. So you guys can continue trying to play your gotcha bullshit and, pretending as if Bernie Sanders is advocating for something that he's not advocating for. So that's not the situation here. They can keep pushing for that kind of stuff and pretending as if that's the case. That's not the reality. Do not buy into that, please. Don't fall for the things these people say, because at the end of the day, you can't trust anything that Kamala Harris says. You can't trust anything that her advisors say, the spokespeople that she has say. They're just all out there just playing gotcha and just trying to get Bernie on something, some bullshit thing. And obviously the media, the mainstream media, Washington Post especially, the super sensitive, triggered assholes at the Washington Post who can't stand Bernie Sanders just taking a slight jab at them, they're obviously going to call him out and, make some shit up. So don't buy into that. It's garbage. It's bullshit. And Bernie Sanders has maintained his promise of pushing for a Medicare-For-All system. He's maintained his idea of pushing for a supplemental system during that, transition period and stuff. And it's not anymore. And in this case, it's the same exact thing. Read the article too. If you guys want to check out the article, you can check it out. Hopefully, you're not behind a paywall, because Washington Post constantly puts people behind a paywall, which is annoying. But if you want to check it out yourself. The details of it doesn't say anything about Bernie Sanders wanting to do a private plan. Doesn't say anything about people that are in a union not being able to receive Medicare for all. It's just saying that people. It's kind of a process or a kind of a change, so-called change that's been done to make sure and assure people that are in unions that they're going to receive public Medicare for all insurance. It's not going to be a private system unless it's a supplemental program during that transition period and during that, again, under maybe some sort of system like we spoke about before. In some cases, this is regarding Tulsi Gabbard, regarding situations where some people might not be able to receive certain types of care, certain types of health care. So like chiropractic work and plastic surgery and acupuncture and stuff like that. So when people can't receive that under Medicare for all, they'll receive it through a supplemental program. And this is the same exact thing that is being said here. That's all that it is. So just please read the article, look into the people that are commenting on this on Twitter and stuff, because they've commented a lot. And trust me, that's the real kind of reality of it. And anything else everybody else is saying is propaganda.